plan was that we will go all set to attack. Attack will obviously take place at night. So, depending upon what was the weapon range, we will close to these harbors every night and stay in a position so that we can launch the missiles by so and so time. And then before the sun rises, before it is twilight, you withdraw so that it becomes difficult for their aircraft to target us. We were doing this all night for 15 nights, up and down till we were told to stand down.
What was your reaction at that moment then after 15 days?
Disappointed, terribly disappointed.
You and your boys?
Everyone, right from my fleet commander down to the every rating, because they were just obeying our orders. You know, if you, of course, their duty changes every 4 hours, but not for the people who are controlling. We are on duty all the time. Otherwise, you don't know what's going to happen at what time. So when the tempo has become so high, targets are identified, they have already been fed into the computers, and you just have to wait that go. And not that even Naval Headquarters was pressurizing the political master that you tell us, we'll just take it off, finish it off forever. I have had a personal meeting with the commander of Pakistani fleet in 2016. We were attending some seminar together. I had already just retired. I don't want to name him. So he is no more. Again, God bless his soul. He told me, I said, what is your planning for? He says, sir, how can we plan? Aircraft carrier is not something easy to handle. So our biggest threat is your aircraft carrier.
Today I'm honored to have with me a man who has flown from the sea, fought from the deck, and commanded India's most critical maritime theatre. Vice Admiral Shekhar Sinha was commissioned into the Indian Navy in 1974 as a combat naval aviator. He joined the fighter stream, flew frontline aircraft, and went on to operate from all 3 aircraft carriers that the Indian Navy has ever had. Now, over a career spanning 4 decades, he's commanded fighter squadrons, air stations, frontline warships, and entire fleets. From the cockpit to the command chair, his journey reflects the full spectrum of naval warfare: air, surface, and strategy. Now, in his final years in the uniform, he also served as the Chief of Integrated Defense Staff. We have a lot to talk about, sir. Viewers, you're watching Line of Duty, and I'm very honored to welcome Vice Admiral Shekhar Sinha to our studios.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me on your show. I recall I always relish, being questioned, being probed, and try and recall as much as I can.
The Navy is called the Silent Service. During Operation Sindoor, you heard the roar of the Su-30s and the Rafales, and then you heard the tanks moving, and then you heard the bombs going off and the guns flashing. But the Indian Navy played a very strong but a very silent role during in choking off Pakistan's supply chain, sea lanes. And it was a huge deterrent at sea. As much as you can reveal, can you tell us exactly what happened?
Our intention is always to do a blockade of any harbour. And we know that Karachi is the most important harbour. There are Gwadar, there is Ormara, there is Pasni, Jiwani and all that. So we had, I am told that we had enough number of ships to position them in good numbers, including the submarines, outside these harbours, which are frequently used by the merchant ships. Now, what it effectively did was that it did not allow any of the Pakistani ships to come out of harbour with the fear of getting, killed, I may say so. Also, what they can't see is the submarine. They don't know where is the submarine deployed. Right. So that is one. Secondly, as you rightly said, it closes the chance of the supply ships coming from other countries. And in this case, Turkey was supplying the drones, if you recall, the spare parts and drones. How will they come? And those supply ships were not entering this area at all because of. Similarly, the Chinese were supplying everything virtually. So all their ammunition, if it would run out, it has to come. Now, one of the things which the Navy does, that whenever we do a thing like this, we normally declare that we are exercising in this area and there will be live firing. And if any merchant ship enters this area, which is latitude and longitude is given, area box, they will do it at their own peril. Now, if you say this, and then it is out on the open in the public domain. So what happens is that the merchant ships who are carrying this, their supplies, they don't enter this area. Or if they have to enter, the insurance cost will go up. So none of them actually ventured into this, and you must be recalling that naval missile firing practice was very often shown on the television.
Yes.
So that is to tell that it's not we are not telling you a lie. We are here.
We are there.
We are doing a missile firing practice, and you can't stop. It's a warship. So two things happened. One is that did not permit their ships to submarine to come out, and secondly is to choke the supply chain. The third important thing that we do, that we call it from the sea landwards. Now, that's a warfare. One of the techniques, that whatever are the targets which will be taken up by the Air Force or the Army, fortunately our missile ranges are such that they could have taken on any of those targets. And BrahMos was first designed for the Navy. The first BrahMos ever was put on a ship, on INS Rana. And later on, when they saw the efficacy, its usage, they said, why not give it to the Army?
Yeah.
Then it went to Army. Then Air Force said, humko bhi de do. So, they had this Air Force basically for, destroying the close air support, basically for runway denial, etc. So that's exactly what they did. So all the targets could have been. I don't know if they did. At least I don't know. But it was within the range of the BrahMos and other missiles which the Navy was carrying in the. The third thing is that important is that you keep them in a readiness, that you only have to be given order and you just press a button and it goes.
Right.
So that is a threat. So Navy's role, keep the sea lanes of communication open for yourself and the world. Prevent the sea lanes of communication terminating into enemy harbor. And thirdly,
keep your finger a little above the button.
That's
that
right.
is going to be pressed.
That's right. It will be
if
pressed.
you push us too far.
Yeah. So the adversary knows about it. The military leaders know about it. And therefore, if there is a lot of pressure on the land forces, if at all, then one of the ways to reduce that pressure is to get the naval fleet closer to the firing ranges of their important, what is called the vital asset, vital points and vital areas, VA and VPs. And they are known. So all vital area, vital points, the latitude, longitude, etc., they already fed into the missiles, so that it goes and finds the target without any fail. So I think this is a very important thing, and as you go forward, possibly it will be, I'll be mentioning
In fact,
this.
you were the fleet operations officer of the Western Fleet during Operation Parakram. While Operation Sindoor was, 4 days, but Operation Parakram lasted 2 weeks, and that was immediately after the Parliament attacks. So you've been in this situation of an Operation Sindoor and actually being there right at the spot. What did we go and do during, take us back to Operation Parakram and tell us how it was.
I will cut the long story short. Now, the planning of such operation is very time consuming, because you have to constantly be in dialogue with Naval Headquarters, and Naval Headquarters is constantly dialogue with the highest decision making body. Because in naval warfare, if you see the history of any war, it is by and large the decisive. is the last one. Beyond that, either somebody raises a white flag or you sink. So this is, go to World War I, you go to World War II, it's exactly the same story. Or any other war small war which have taken place in between, short wars. So it took us quite some time to plan. The Chief of Naval Staff then, he himself flew down to Bombay. Admiral Madhvendra Singh was the CNS at that time. And he came, we sat in the operations room of the command headquarters and we were briefed. Nobody else, the fleet commander, commander-in-chief, chief staff officer operation and the CNS. These are the only people who knew what is being discussed. And no record was to be kept. So when the Chief of Naval Staff says, okay, I have discussed it with the government, Cabinet Committee of Security, and we will take out these targets. This is a naval target you have to take out. Broadly on the lines that I just spoke. So these targets, the latitude, longitude, because the targets are on land, by and large, position is compromised.
Correct.
By and large. So we came back and we had to make sure that there is nothing in writing. We had to do without all our staff. So all our, below officer rank of staff were sort of dispensed with. And the present Chief of Naval Staff was my Fleet Communication Officer.
Okay.
And Vice Admiral A.B. Singh, who retired from Bombay, he was my Fleet Navigating Officer. So Fleet Operation Officer is like Headmaster. So three of us and the Fleet Gunnery Officer, we sat down and once we were given the task, we drew it on our charts, etc., and how will the transit take place, where we will be, where the aircraft, have to be fueled, where will the aircraft carrier be, what targets will be taken by aircraft carrier. So that's a continuous dialogue between the commanding officers, Fleet Operation Officer and the Fleet Commander. That this is how we will go. So finally when it finalizes,
it just goes seamless.
The CNS came himself to see the final bit. And finally the tracks that we drew, there were only 3 copies of it and drawn by me personally. It was not to be shared with anybody. One was with the Fleet Commander, which is Fleet Operation Officer. One was with the Commander-in-Chief and one was with the Chief of Naval Staff. That's all. No operation order, nothing. Everything was to be done impromptu. So then I had to share few things with my own staff, Fleet Communication Officer, Gunnery Officer. So by and large they were aware, but the copy of the chart was just one. So that was for planning. Now the plan was that we will go all set to attack. Attack will obviously take place at night. So depending upon what was the weapon range, we will close to these harbors every night and stay in a position so that we can launch the missiles by so and so time. And then before the sun rises, before it is twilight, you withdraw so that it becomes difficult for their aircraft to target us. So this was, obviously one had to be awake all night, all day because there's no break. So we remained, we slept on the chair, somebody else is keeping a watch on the flag bridge in the operations room. Fleet Commander would, we would tell him that, why don't you retire, I am sitting here. So that we used to take turns. And how many, 1 hour, 2 hours, come back again. Come back means I couldn't leave the bridge. I had to be there on a chair sleeping there itself.
Oh my God.
So, and you had to be at the peak of your efficiency, the mind. So we closed every night, and other preparation was that the missiles that we had, of course now we have a longer range. We didn't have BrahMos at that time. We had the Oran missile. And those barrels are not like this, like your mic is pointing that way, they're pointing like that. So the connections, the firing controls, some connections are on top, some are at the bottom, electrical connection. So now if the sea is rough, you can't send somebody on top to climb. So those top connectors were all connected up. Only the bottom connector had to be given by press of switch and it will go. So we had this we were doing this all night for 15 nights. Up and down, till we were told to stand down. I guess you must be knowing the story.
Were you woken up on any of these 15 nights with an emergency?
We were awake.
No, even for that 1 hour that you got a
Not at
power
night.
nap. Okay.
Wink was in daytime.
Okay.
Because threat does not, you never know, there is a submarine below you, who knows? Even the enemy is smart, he would have sailed his submarines. So you are always under threat of submarine. You are always under threat of land-based aircraft coming and hitting you. So you have to prevent that from happening. And that requires little proactive action. All the air defense ships will be in the outer periphery. The aircraft carrier would have launched the aircraft and they will be in the outermost, so that any aircraft coming that can be engaged at 200-300 kilometers away.
Any moment do you recall in these 15 days when, because obviously it was a blockade and that you had announced that we are here and no merchant vessels should enter, but was there any near miss?
It was a, shall I say, French Navy ship which was doing some practice landing of its helicopters, and it was very close to Daman and Diu, that area, in the Bay Area, and we saw this completely dark ship, and only once in a while some flashing light. So we asked him, "Who are you?" Because it wasn't in our plan of intelligence that we would find any ship there. It's an Indian sort of water. So we asked him, "Who are you?" He wouldn't respond. And then we almost stopped two of our destroyers, one the fleet commander's destroyer where I was sort of controlling the thing from. We finally said that if you don't identify yourself, we are going to open fire. And we pointed all the guns towards him. Then the officer of the watch there, he realized, oh my God, things are very serious, He says, no, Indian Navy ship, I am FNS, French ship, Lafayette. So we knew Lafayette was in Bombay Harbour 2 weeks ago. So I said, why aren't you responding to our... He said, no, this is radio silence. I said, but you know that we are in a warlike situation. Even the American Navy has given us pass to go. So, this is very dangerous. So anyway, we lost...
Then they backed off.
Yeah, then they started talking. But we lost a diplomatic complaint that, they were in the
area when they were not supposed to be
Not
there.
supposed to be, and it could have led to a very unfortunate accident. Because there everybody's trigger happy. Moment you see somebody unidentified, you say action station. Everybody in the waiting to fire. So
you were 15 days you were there waiting to fire, and then of course it all ended after that, after US sort of intervened, and Musharraf had to give a speech where he had to say that
condemn the
attack on Parliament as a terror. Even said that no more terror. Pakistan will not, breed terror outlets, etc. That was 2 decades ago. So we're still struggling with Pakistan-based terror outfits even now. What was your reaction at that moment? Then after 15 days,
disappointed, terribly disappointed.
You and your boys,
everyone, right from my fleet commander down to the every rating, because they were just obeying our orders. If you, of course, their duty changes every 4 hours.
Yeah.
But not for the people who are controlling. We are on duty all the time. Otherwise, you don't know what's going to happen at what time.
True.
So when the tempo has become so high, targets are identified, they have already been fed into the computers, and you just have to wait that go. And not that even Naval Headquarters was pressurizing the political masters, that you tell us, we'll just take it off, finish it off forever. So naval battles are generally decisive, because if you start, then the trade war will start. You will hit some merchant ship, they will hit some merchant ship. Then what happens? The blood boiling becomes even more strong. Then chances of doing something even without order is very high, because people say, "Acha humko mara," that type of josh. Obviously, everybody is young enough to take that kind of risk. So we were quite disappointed, to be honest.
As a fleet commander, how do you balance aggression with restraint?
First of all, I would say that the passage of a naval officer for reaching that level, he has to be routed through a number of courses. You have staff courses, okay, for fighting, naval higher command course, where first time you are exposed to strategies as to what can define strategy, why should you be doing this, why you should not be doing. And then, of course, the National Defense College equivalent, and in between some courses. So you know that your ultimate authority lies with the political masters, number one. You also know that unlike a land warfare, on land there is a border. You know that other side of border is black, this side is white. But in the Navy there is no border. You could be shooting some neutral guy. In fact, at sea, 90% ships are commercial ships. They are just doing innocent passage. Only 10% are warships. So these senses are, as you grow up, you're all exposed to all this.
Yeah, so there's lots of adrenaline,
Yeah.
but it has to be matched with matched with restraint.
Yeah, you have to discuss with your staff. You have to get your commanding officers online. 20, 25 ships. You have to get them online, and then you make a speech. Okay, fine, boys, you're doing a great job. Continue, but as you know that we have to have because you can start. Navy can actually start a war. Even a lieutenant fires at sea, it can lead to a war.
Yeah.
Because response, we don't know how much will be the response. So navies are, force in being, meaning that you are so strong that you deter the enemy from doing anything to you. That's why a powerful navy is must.
And India's Navy, from what I understand, and I've been speaking to a lot of people, is one of the most powerful in the not just in the Indian Ocean.
True.
In fact, it matches up with the Chinese Navy quite a
Better, because you are the resident navy. You reside in Indian Ocean. So out of the resident powers, Indian Navy is the most powerful navy. These are all coming from outside. Then ships need to be supported. Suppose something goes wrong, or you want to change some component. Fuel, okay, understood, they can have a supply ship. But what happens if something fails? You want to get a component, you want to get this. How will you match that logistic chain? Supply chain jisko bolte hain. The supply, the important components, if the war is going on, they are actually transported by helicopter, this, that, and finally dropped next to the ship, so that your divers can go and pick it up. So it's a long chain. So I would say that you said matching up. The only people you can say that yes are stronger than you, they are not resident power, they are the American Navy. Because they have a fleet in Bahrain. And their power, obviously, the world's most powerful Navy.
right.
But not the China.
the kind of weapons that we have on our ships in today's day and age surpasses even the weapons that are possessed by other wings of the forces.
True. You see, the classification in where and how will you use it. Classification all in the mind. But we have very long range missiles which can hit, now BrahMos can hit about, new ones can hit 800 kilometers. This Pralay has come, it's a cruise missile, and I can bet that Navy will get it first. Because this is one area where you can, on land when you launch a missile, it goes through built up areas. Cruise missile, it can hit anything if the navigation system or height finding is not there. On the Navy, it does not find any obstruction till it crosses
it goes
the land.
straight from the sea to the target.
Till it crosses the land, it does not have any obstruction, because you have made sure that there are no other ships in that area when you fire. Number one. So we have long range missiles, quite a few, of various types. You have BrahMos of 800 kilometers. Then we have surface to air missiles. Now we are making the, with the Israeli combination, Barak missile. The actually Navy's composite package is quite, I would say, very strong. And that's why the commanders at sea really have to be very update and in touch with all these people. The fleet commander's job is quite, demanding. You are also getting input from the MR aircraft. You're also getting input from command headquarters. You're also getting input from your intelligence agencies. Then you're getting from your own ships, what is the state of readiness. You got to know where they are. So they're all, some 10 miles, 15 miles, 20 miles. who should move up, who should go down. So it's quite interesting actually, you know. That's
Not
really
just
nice.
interesting, also challenging. But
Yeah.
and now that these 26 Rafales are also going to be part of that, so very interesting. And I just want to talk about China, because you're talking about the sea and not talking about China is an oxymoron, because there's Pakistan in the west and then China from the east. That is. So have you ever been in a situation when you had to manage both these fronts at the same time?
When in my last appointment, which was Commander-in-Chief of Western Naval Command, when Vikramaditya, after commissioning, it was making on a maiden passage back to India, month of December, January, and we were getting inputs that there is a Chinese nuclear submarine has come to Indian Ocean, basically to track this Vikramaditya, so that it can get the acoustic signature of the propellers, which can help them, you know, modify or program their torpedoes in case of war. And that is one. Now, what the Pakistanis were doing, that, you know, they also were sending their ships down to the Gulf of Aden, very close to Red Sea. When you come into Arabian Sea, you come from Red Sea into the Gulf of Aden, and then you are out into Arabian Sea. And we were taking that route. Very easy to make a guess. They don't have to guess, you know, it is out in the open that it will take so and so route. So obviously, Commander-in-Chief Western Command was a worried man because it was coming to him. And then, of course, we worked out. We sent our fleet. We put them into Red Sea well in advance. Large number of our ships to escort it, and then we worked out some acoustic signature changes. And as they entered the Arabian Sea, before that, we had managed to track the nuclear submarine. And,
The Chinese one.
Yeah. And we had also forced him to come up and show himself at some place. And then as our fleet entered the Arabian Sea, we had changed the route which nobody knew. The fleet commander was told in the last minute. So change the route, which, you know, hug the coast and proceed north. Don't come straight to Karwar.
Okay. So then that fooled the Pakistanis also.
Pakistani, Chinese, because then they moved up and then they cut across towards Gujarat and Maharashtra coast and then came down into Karwar. So it was quite a sleepless nights, that making sure that, you know,
That our
doesn't get
aircraft carrier comes
does
home
not get
safely and does not get.
Yeah, compromised your don't hit you in peacetime. And then just to give them assurance, before she entered, I went in a helicopter myself, Commander-in-Chief, 200 miles at sea, embarked that ship, and brought her along with other ships into Karwar Harbour, and then I came back. So it was quite. I think it was 7th of January, if I'm not wrong, 2013.
Why India needs these aircraft carriers? There's also talk about nuclear powered aircraft carriers. Take us through that for a little bit.
You know, there are two camps in the world. One is a pro-aircraft carrier. They will tell you all the good points, but they also tell you what the bad points are. But there are naysayers who will always say, no, it is a big target, it can be targeted, it can be fired, hypersonic missile, you know, all kinds of things they will tell you. My own view is, I mean, maybe I'm a little biased. I've flown from carriers all my life. My sense is that aircraft carrier is the biggest show of force that you can do by any navy. It actually projects your country. It also have a force projection. It also has assurance to your neighbors that हमारा neighbor है, something happens, he can do this. That is why you have so many friends around you. Then third, more important is that in a war, proper war, you can change the, shall I say, the theater of war. Let us say that, you know, you are fighting, the army is fighting a war towards the western border.
Right.
And the pressures are becoming too much, it is prolonged. How do you shift the theater? tell your Navy that go and carry out attack on the eastern side of Pakistan, or rather western side of Pakistan. Gwadar, Jiwani, Pasni, in that area. So the enemy will be forced to withdraw some of its army and shift it to this new theatre, because then they don't know what will happen next. So this shifting of flexibility is quite a lot. People who say that it becomes a target, well, everything is a target. I mean, I would say that an air base is a target and military camp is a target. So it has no, and once you एक बार वर्दी पहन लिया, everybody is vulnerable. है ना, वो कहते हैं ना, ओखली में सर दे दिया तो फिर डरना क्या है. So we believe in that, and I don't think it is so easy to find aircraft carrier. Even if you find, it can move 600 miles in a day, 24 hours. How will you catch him? And that brings me to nuclear power. And if you have a nuclear powered carrier, then it can go even more. It can reach a theatre much quicker because it can do much higher speeds and sustain the aircraft carrier operation for longer time at sea. Here what happens is that, it runs on, let's say, gas turbine, or it runs on, diesel. Then you have to fill up after some time. Then also it has, in this case what will happen if you have nuclear powered, then most of the space can be done by elongating it, having more aircraft on board, and also having more jet fuel for the aircraft. Right now even they have a limit.
Right.
So, it will sometime, if you keep flying for too quickly, you might run out of the AVCAT, the aviation turbine fuel. So I think there are many advantages, and we have seen it 2-3 times. I have had a personal meeting with the commander of Pakistani fleet in 2016. We were attending some seminar together. I had already just retired. I don't want to name him. So he is no more. Again, God bless his soul. He told me, I said, what is your planning for? He says, sir, how can we plan? Aircraft carrier is not something easy to handle. So our biggest threat is your aircraft carrier. So we know that, you have miles ahead as far as the naval capability is concerned. But the trouble is that now with the Chinese arrival here, and most of the weapon system, ships, aircraft are all Chinese with Pakistan, we are concerned about the Pakistan being a proxy of China.
We saw that in Operation Sindoor.
So China will not fight face to face on its own. But you will be fighting Chinese weapon systems all along, whether it is for the army, whether western border, northern border, or eastern border. You are actually, I am saying that it is a one-front war. Pakistan is a proxy. One front is the front which is Chinese. All weapon systems in this area that I just mentioned are Chinese. At sea it has always been Chinese. The oceans are connected, there are no borders. So I think that, this is one area that I am sure the Navy is working, updating its operational philosophy all the time, and very capable people are heading that. So I think that I can say with great confidence that Indian Navy is quite capable and poised to take on this new threat. As the time passes, Navy is inducting more ships with more modern technology. Every ship undergoes a midlife upgrade. And you will be happy to know that the moment we induct a ship, all the electronic equipment, the process of midlife upgrade already starts from that day. As to what are the futuristic systems.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how do we get it? And we have a lot of futuristic, particularly in the electronics field. A lot of it.
China, you talked about China being, it's one front war. China, Pakistan being a proxy. China now also regularly deploys submarines, survey ships, warships in the Indian Ocean region. Is this, obviously a lot of it is recon, but also is this quiet encirclement that it is trying to do?
Yeah, you see, they have the story of string of pearls.
Yeah.
So what the Chinese do, they may or may not, they don't want to face you directly. So they will influence your neighbors. So this is the influence operation which is going on. You take Myanmar, you take Bangladesh, you take Sri Lanka, you take Maldives, you take Pakistan, and you take east coast of Africa. So they will invest large amounts of money to the extent of causing
Buying out entire nations.
debt trap.
Debt traps.
Debt
yes.
trap officially. But they are also known to bribe the leaders, personal bribe, so that they remain in your side. Second thing is, they always do, which has got a dual purpose. Hambantota port, Colombo port. Nothing stops them from using it in wartime.
Gwadar.
Gwadar, of course, will be totally Chinese only. These are on lease. They are not on lease. They are given to Chinese. So I would say that, yes, it is a concern, but they are not going unchallenged. That's all I will say. They are not going unchallenged.
We are prepared for everything that China is doing.
The big thing is that fortunately, geography has been very kind to India. If you look at the map, one can enter Indian Ocean only through 2-3 places. Malacca Strait, Straits of Malacca, Sunda, Lombok, these 3 states. And on our western side, the Gulf of Aden and the Persian Gulf, the Straits of Hormuz. Now, if I keep a watch in all these places all the time, at least I will know who's where. That who is where is called the Maritime Domain Awareness. We have a very strong MDA system. Satellites, ships, submarines, maritime patrol aircraft. There are 7 areas in which these are deployed, 24/7, 365 days. There is no break. And they all keep feeding this data into the awareness center, which is in Manesar. And they are passing it online to all our operations room and to the ships and submarines. So, first thing is that you have to know who's where. Unfortunately, ships don't fly like aircraft. If somebody is crossing the Malacca Strait, you know how long it will take to come to so-and-so place. So you spot him first, then after 4-5 hours, you shadow him again for some time. Then you see that if he is done in alteration of course. So that's why I would say that Indian Navy says very proudly, anybody entering through this area, we are watching you. You are not, Navy is watching everyone coming in and out of these areas. And nothing hidden.
How, let's say, decisive are submarines going to be in this entire scheme of things? We spoke a lot about other things, but submarines less. In terms of number of submarines India has, or Pakistan has, or China has, where do we stand, and how strong are we in that area?
We have had a reduced sort of force levels in submarine. But now with the induction of the Scorpion and now the 75 India, I believe it is being signed with the Germans and our older submarines. But there we have to do a lot of work. We have to really get more submarines. How they are useful? Very useful. First of all, if you have to put a blockade on any country, it is the submarine which will be hiding under the surface of water outside these harbors, so that once their ships start coming out, you take them on there itself. But then it also compromises the submarine's position. Once you fire, he knows where is it come from, either by torpedo or by missile. So that is an area where, but we also have now, government has given orders to make nuclear powered attack submarines, meaning that they will have a propulsion of nuclear power, but they will not carry nuclear weapons, they will carry conventional weapons what they are carrying now. So the ability to reach the area much quicker. For example, the diesel submarines have to slow down when they go underwater because it runs on battery.
Right.
Every 6-7 days it has to come very close to the surface of water so that it can take air, run the diesel generator which will charge the battery. So that is being overcome. The Scorpions that we made now with the help of the French, that is being fitted with the air independent propulsion, which will increase its endurance, underwater endurance to large number of days. So that is one thing which is happening now. Also the 75I which is coming, that will come with the AIP which has been developed by DRDO. All trials are successful now. We had a problem with that, now it is okay. So that will be fitted on the 75 India 6 submarines. And now the nuclear submarine which will come, it will take time, it will be beyond 30. But in the meantime, we have this nuclear powered submarine with nuclear weapon? I don't know if you're going to ask me that. So,
Sure. I mean, nuclear powered submarine is where, in fact, what we've seen in Russia, Ukraine, the other theaters that have been going on, a lot of it is on land, but the whole Black Sea area, and that shows because that's really, again, supplies getting hit, including oil supplies going inside or outside of Russia. So nuclear powered submarines are going to play a big role in the future, any future conflict, really.
you know, in nuclear powered, you have two kinds of submarines. One is called SSN. Propulsion is nuclear, but the weapons are non-nuclear. So just like a diesel submarine, similar weapons, but propulsion is nuclear. The second one is SSBN. Now that is more khatarnak because it has got a nuclear propulsion and carries only nuclear weapons. SSBN. So we have made SSBNs first and now we are making the diesel submarines. Indians, do difficult things first. So the SSBN, you must have heard of Arihant, you must have heard of Aridaman, and there's one more which is just about commission. So these are the second strike capable, meaning that if the adversary fires nuclear missile on your country, and let's say it takes out some of your nuclear facilities, land-based nuclear facilities, they get compromised, position. We also know where the Pakistanis are. So, if your nuclear facility on land gets damaged, then firing from land by the army or the strategic force command or by the air force, it may become little bit far-fetched. So India has a policy of no first use, meaning that मैं तुमको पहले nuclear attack नहीं करूँगा. You fire at me, you will get a response.
And if the land can't give you that
is what is second
reply,
strike.
then
Second strike is this. The submarines carry those missiles which have very large ranges from 750 to the ones which have been tested just now are 3,500 kilometers. So these are huge fellows. Just like Agni missile. It's a sea version of Agni. So these are the ones, second strike ability. Therefore, nobody will even dare to do a nuclear attack on you.
Right, because they know that
you have to declare. We keep declaring, ye missile firing ho gaya, and they're all truthful. There's nothing. I mean, they also keep tracking. Missile fired, a satellite can track it right
Absolutely.
up to there. So there's nothing in hiding. What is secret is when will you use it. That is secret. Secrecy is all in the mind now.
secrecy is.
But I don't know, with artificial intelligence, even that might.
So when you, as a naval commander in today's date and age, sir, what would scare them more? Would it be missiles, cyber warfare, or is it the silent submarines, and especially the?
What has happened now, the way things are changing, my own sense is that most of the wars will be fought by using the space-based assets, where you will find that there will be less of contact warfare, like you saw in Sindoor. Army had not moved anywhere.
Right.
Air Force did. Actually, if Air Force wanted, they need not have gone. The targets could have been taken by, out of the 8 terrorist camps, 6 were taken out by Army, by the BrahMos, 2 were taken out by the Air Force.
Air Force.
So Air Force did not have gone, to be honest. They could have done this. Even naval ships could have fired. Anyway, they've done a good job. They've gone into enemy area, gone and destroyed. It's not easy. It's, wartime. So I would say that the sea has become very transparent now. The satellites, particularly the Chinese, the Beidou system, it is watching the entire Indo-Pacific 24/7 without a break. Last year alone, 2024-25, they have launched some 267 or 69 satellites into this area. Out of that, either 67 or 69 are ISR capable, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance. Because see, we have 2 nuclear weapons and one is totally footloose, one on the west. And the one on the east or the north, he is giving him everything. So not even for a moment should you think that he is fighting alone. As I said, it's a one-front war.
You've served as the Chief of Integrated Defense Command also. How far ahead are we as far as theatre commands are concerned? Because now that you've highlighted the real threat to us and how bad it can get, the need for theatre commands is perhaps what India, or is the need of the hour for, as far as Indian defense is concerned.
Very true. Having been at the head of the IDS headquarters, having pushed these proposals at one time, I think that now time has come that we have to have the war is not only Army's domain, Air Force domain, Navy's domain. No, it is all of national approach. Every department of the government will have to pool in the national resources. You have to have a comprehensive national power, and that can be achieved only by theatre command. I would say we are late. It should have happened yesterday. And I have no hesitation in saying this. There are a lot of people who sort of think it is not required. But I think that, there is little more maturity required by saying who's going to control this, who's going to control that. Don't worry. The command structure will be such that between 1 and 2, top 2 people, you will have expertise of all 3 domains. So I would think that it should be done very quickly. Only then you can identify the targets and use the capability of all 3 services to bring in the firepower on the intended target. Once the information warfare phase is gone, we need to combine cyber and space command now and use the cyber domain through the space to carry out offensive cyber operation on land-based and sea-based fire control systems.
Sir, ये थोड़ा समझा दीजिए. ये तो आपने you said something which went, I mean,
सभी फायर कंट्रोल सिस्टम्स हैं, आर्मी के हों, एयरफोर्स के हों, नेवी के हों, they all have electronics.
right.
Now, if you want to make it dysfunctional, you can jam them or you can put malware. Now, if you do from land-based systems, then it is identifiable. But if I do it in a manner that it is based on the space and we are using space assets to transmit that malware into a designated area, then the chances of compromise are less. And where are you jamming it from? And this is how the wars will start, particularly, advanced countries. So use this so-called artificial intelligence where you can weed out from target to non-targets, that AI should be able to do it. You have to program the artificial intelligence in that manner. So if you are using the space input, satellites, with this cyber capability to infect the systems on land or sea, then you are disabling many of the systems, making them incapable of being used. So that is what it basically means. So that should start from there. And thereafter, long-range missiles. Very true. If you have not succeeded, you don't have so many satellites, then you will have to use the long-range weapon systems to neutralize the enemy. And worse come worse, if you get hit by a nuclear weapon, then I just mentioned to you that we have a second strike capability. They are at sea all the time. Once we have the third submarine is out, at least 2 submarines will be at sea, one in the east, one on the west all the time. So you have, and they go out for a long time. Nuclear fuels, they don't end. So they go, then
they're just there underwater
for human endurance, basically human
months
endurance.
on it.
Yeah. Human endurance is what will limit the deployment. So I'm sure they are practicing that, they're going out maybe month, 2 months. I don't know what they're doing because I'm a little bit out of touch.
But a young Indian today wants to serve the nation. What would you recommend to him? Navy, Air Force or Army?
Well, I would say that as far as armed forces are concerned, if a person is technically more sound, and I would say that naval technical systems are always ahead. Because they are far away from land and they are on their own. Even now you will see that what is coming to land force, what is coming to air force, it all happens after the Navy has got them. For a simple reason, because you are engaging targets which are beyond visual range all the time. There is no contact warfare. 200 mil, 300 mil, 500 mil. So for that, the whole paraphernalia is quite technical. Oh, that is why what we have done is our cadet training is now been increased to 4 years. We started in 2008, and then do a BTech syllabus designed by the IIT, right? Naval Academy does a BTech syllabus, basic technology, basic electrical, basic mechanical, and thereafter you can stream them into anything that you feel like. So the executive officer, the fighting branch officers can talk the language of the maintainers.
True.
क्या खराब है, क्या करो, ये करो, वो देखो. So I would say that that has become must for the Navy. Those who are technically inclined, I would strongly recommend that Navy is the right service. Those who are let's say they don't want to pursue too much of technology, then the Army, and somewhere in between the Air Force. Air Force you require adrenaline like I had in my childhood. So
Childhood and the youth.
Yeah.
Which you said you're still young. Finally, Admiral, what keeps you awake at night when you think about India's future security? आपने मुझे तो काफी डरा दिया है, but what are you worried about?
I'm really, to be very honest, not worried. I'm concerned in the sense that, okay, I hope the boys are doing this. But the fact that these boys, at some point in time, they would have served with me, and now they become, higher positions. So that gives me confidence. No, as long as this guy is there, he will get it done.
Indian Navy is now today considered one of the most powerful navies anywhere in the world. If you were to put a pecking order of the navies of the world and slot Indian Navy in, where would you put it?
I keep reading this IISS, they do some rating, the Australians do some. The Australians have pegged us at number 3. They say that just by numbers, it is US, obviously, US is the most powerful. Because China is competing to remove US from top end than the Chinese. Now, there have been debates about Russian Navy, French Navy, Indian Navy. These debates keep happening. But I think if you give the overall firepower, because we have live threat to nuclear weapon neighbors, our Navy is certainly very, very strong, because we are also countering one particular country which is on the way to remove the US, take away the US leadership. So it's not easy, because he has to go through the way of Asia, through the Indian Ocean. So I would say that I would put it at 3, or maybe if I say 3, 4, then possibly these 2, 3 navies will come about the same. Because you see, the problem is not that. The nuclear force of the Russians is very strong. हमारे दोस्त हैं. Whereas the French, I would say we are better off, much better off. Firepower. Yeah.
All right. So thank you so much for giving us so much time. Thank you so much for telling our viewers so many interesting stories from your time, and of course giving us an assessment of India's security threats today and directionally where we need to be. But thank you so much for your time, most of all, and your service to the nation.
Thank you very much for giving me this chance to come and speak to you. And as I said, I can assure those people who are watching this, that your Navy is the strongest Navy in the Indian Ocean.